we I'm too old to gain muscle. Stop lying to yourself. Stop giving yourself an excuse not to work hard and move forward. Because while our body needs and goals do change as we get older, and yes, it 100% becomes harder to build and retain lean muscle, we can still achieve fabulous results and build muscle at any and every age. And honestly, often the reason we don't see the results we want as we get older is because we cling to improper dieting and workout practices that we may have gotten away with when we were younger. But at every stage of life, we need to be adjusting our fueling and our training. Nothing works forever. Our body and lifestyle are constantly evolving, and so should our diet and training habits to meet us where we're at currently, so we can always move forward and be functionally strong till our final day on this planet. That's why I want to share with you 7 tips to maintain your lean muscle and even gain muscle as you get older. Tip number 1 is use it or lose it. So often the reason we see more dramatic shifts in body composition and lose more muscle mass as we get older is because we've stopped doing what makes us fitter and stronger. We simply accept decline and we use age as an excuse instead of finding ways to really challenge ourselves. Things do get harder. We may feel more awkward with balance moves. We may feel like we even recover slower. We may even dislike coordination moves because they're uncomfortable. Even mainstream media has been telling people to stop doing what kept them strong in the first place. But if you don't use it, you'll lose it. If you want to keep your mind-body connection strong, which can lead to better muscle hypertrophy or muscle gains, you've got to do moves that challenge your coordination. And if you not only want to gain muscle but stay functionally strong and avoid falls, you've got to do those awkward balance moves. Use it or lose it. Keep challenging yourself and training those movement patterns in the gym so you move better in everyday life. Tip number 2, stop dieting. Muscle helps keep our metabolic rate higher. It helps us burn more calories at rest and stay leaner. As we get older, we become less able to utilize protein as efficiently, making it even harder to build and retain lean muscle mass. But this is why it's even more key we stop the dieting and extreme deficits. While it can feel harder and harder to lose any weight we've gained, so we feel like we need to turn to larger and larger calorie deficits, this ultimately sabotages our results. It leads to more muscle mass being lost in the process of us trying to lose weight, which only leads to metabolic adaptations and worse body composition. It leads to us actually making it harder on ourselves to lose the weight and keep it off. Plus, the metabolic adaptations mean we burn even fewer calories at rest. This leads to us then slashing our calories lower and lower to try and keep losing, perpetuating the horrible weight gaining cycle as we get older. Instead, we need to focus on fueling that lean muscle mass. We need to focus on macros first and a very slight calorie deficit so we can help ourselves retain that lean muscle even as we want to lose fat. We may even find we first need to retrain our body to eat more so we can build that lean muscle with a small calorie surplus before we even consider creating a slight deficit to lose. Tip number 3, do moves that challenge you. Many of us have heard that strength training is key to gaining muscle, especially as we get older. And it is. By challenging our muscles, we force them to rebuild and grow stronger. It's why we don't want to fear heavy lifting as we get older. The key is recognizing what lifting heavy is for us. It may mean body weight training starting out, especially if you haven't trained before or haven't trained consistently in a while. Or maybe using resistance bands or dumbbells over barbells. The key is not fearing loads and truly challenging yourself instead of going lighter just because you've hit a certain age. Fitness is about ability, period. We always have to meet ourselves where we're at. This also means we can't avoid awkward or uncomfortable moves that challenge our mind-body connection. Neuromuscular efficiency, or that ability to recruit muscles quickly and in the right sequences to perform movements, is key to us moving well and even improving our reaction times and coordination in everyday life. Not to mention that ability to recruit muscles quickly, that muscle activation will also improve your muscle hypertrophy results. So if you want to be able to gain more muscle, you want to improve that mind-body connection with moves that challenge your balance and your coordination while also challenging yourself with loads. Tip number 4, increase your protein portions per each meal. As we get older, we can develop anabolic resistance and we are less able to utilize protein as efficiently. This means we actually need to increase our protein intake, especially when we're training hard and lifting to build muscle. Because our muscles don't respond by increasing muscle protein synthesis in the same way as when we're younger, increasing a portion of 20 grams of protein to 30 may be super key. And if we're training harder, you may see an even better benefit from 40 grams, especially after a hard training session. However, the reason I don't just say increase protein intake overall is because as we get older, we can also often see a decline in our appetite. This decline in appetite can be purely age-related, but it can also be based on how we've fueled in the past to try and lose weight with more extreme deficits. It can also be hard to eat a ton of protein in one sitting because it can make us feel fuller. By increasing our intake each meal over trying to get in a ton of protein at one meal, and even adding in a pre- and post-workout snack that is protein-centric, we can break up our protein intake to see results. You may even find that you can see an added benefit from BCAA supplementation during your workouts, as leucine especially is so critical to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. There can also be some benefit of breaking up your protein intake to keep a positive protein balance at multiple times a day to promote better muscle growth. Tip number 5, do your mobility work. We can see changes in our recovery, and aches and pains can feel like they're adding up so much more as we get older. Too often we simply blame our age over recognizing the movement compensations, imbalances, overuse, and overload that have been occurring for years that we haven't addressed. But whatever the reason, we can't ignore these issues if we want to be able to train hard consistently to see results. It's why mobility work is so key. It can help us move better and recover faster, even helping us better manage chronic inflammatory conditions that could fight our muscle gains, so we can train consistently and challenge ourselves to build that lean muscle. Without proper recovery, we end up training to a point of diminishing returns, where we're just constantly beating our body down, over allowing for proper recovery and growth. When we rest, we rebuild. In the video description, I'll link to a full body mobility routine with the complete 3-step prehab process to address common aches and pains. But it's key we do this mobility work in every warm-up so we can train to build that lean muscle more efficiently. You'll be surprised by how much even 5 to 10 minutes of mobility work a day helps you train harder without needing extra days off to recover. Tip number 6, be strategic in your meal timing. I say this as a person who personally loves intermittent fasting as a meal timing. Fasting can backfire when gaining muscle is your goal, especially if you're a hard gainer. And as we get older, we have to realize that fasting and fasted training may hinder us from gaining muscle, as in a fasted state, your muscle protein balance is negative. Basically, you break down more muscle than you build. So we put ourselves at greater risk for losing muscle the more we put ourselves in this negative protein balance. Not to mention, when you train fasted, you don't necessarily have that readily available stored fuel you need to truly push hard during a session and rebuild after you've created the muscle tissue damage. So consider including a pre-workout meal with protein to have amino acids readily available in your system, and even a carb source for immediate fuel to allow you to push harder in your sessions without fatigue. Studies have found that resistance exercise combined with amino acid ingestion elicits the greatest anabolic response and may assist the elderly in producing a youthful muscle protein synthetic response provided sufficient protein is ingested following exercise. This post-workout protein consumption can even help you improve your recovery, so you can include more hard training sessions over the week. Tip number 7, stay active on your days off. Recovery and rest days don't have to be do-nothing days, and the more we can actually use these days to prep our body to move better during our training sessions, the better off we'll be. Include 5 to 10 minute mobility routines. Go for a long walk. Honestly, walking is one of the most underutilized tools we have to stay functionally stronger and improve our body composition even as we get older. Walking can help us avoid unwanted fat gain, keep our aerobic base strong, and even help us recover from previous training sessions without being catabolic to our muscle mass, unlike more intense forms of steady-state cardio. Walking can also be a great way to de-stress and help our mind and body recover. So as much as it can be hard to take a day off, your body needs it. Your muscles repair and rebuild when you give them time to recover. But to stay active, don't be afraid to include light movement and mobility work on those days off. You may be surprised by how much even this light activity helps you sleep better. We can and should focus on building muscle at any and every age. We are never too old to see results. And our workout routine and diet should always be based on our needs and goals, meeting us where we're at currently. But our age, that simple number, should never determine what we can or can't do. We have to remember that if we want to stay strong, it really is a case of use it or lose it. So use these 7 tips to help you feel lean and strong and fabulous till your final day on this planet. And for even more motivation to never say you're too old, check out my Fitness Hacks podcast I've linked to in the video description. If you like the video, make sure to like it. Comment below if you have any questions.